Hare Krishna. Hello and welcome to this web-based discussion forum, which we have titled India is Still India. I am Sri Ram Das, and the objective of this discussion platform is to deliberate some solutions to the modern day problems. The other day, when we took you through this introduction section, there were various topics which we placed up. These topics could be taken up in a detailed manner where we would like to deliberate upon them. What are the possible solutions? The other introduction session was just a feeler indeed. And today, I would say this is a continuation of that session. And the focus of this session is to bring the current problems of the human society, the entire problems or the societal problems or the economical problems which every country or so undergoes is not unique. Most of the problems are actually interconnected because we are having a very deep connected globalization network. And but today, the plan is to bring in a perspective on how the basic framework of human life has been forgotten. I hope you would not disagree with me that what this human life is meant for and what this human society is meant for is completely misunderstood. And if I say what is the basic framework, when I told this that we are going to discuss today about the basic framework of how a human life should be, and also we are going to see, are we really following that basic framework in which we are supposed to live? A human body or a human life is supposed to transcend the higher realms of understanding. But unfortunately today, if we introspect every one of our life, either personally or collectively, we are descending into materialistic, animalistic life. All our purposes of life or conducting our lifestyle has become completely materialistic. Isn't that true? Every one of us would agree that today we are heading towards an hedonistic, materialistic lifestyle, and thereby what we have accrued upon us is that a completely different lifestyle which is not conducive for a peaceful and harmonious society. And today when we look out, or whenever, wherever you go, every frame which you see, or everything what come across, or everything what you hear, or everything what you read, shows very clearly that the human civilization today has unleashed some animal spirits in it. And maybe that is the root cause of the entire problem which we have dealt the other day also. The animal spirits in us, the insatiable greed in us, the whole mess which has been created is because of this very basic problem that we, instead of transcending to a higher realms of understanding, instead of transcending to a human way of life, today it might sound very harsh, but definitely what has happened is we are running what I would call is a similar to an animal lifestyle where there is no common goal, there is no dharmic values, there is no some objective, or there is no common good. If today I have to say that what is the common good for an animal society, what is the common good for which an horse society is functioning, or what is the common good for which an elephant society is functioning, they don't have any common good. We are supposed to have some common good or some societal life. But are we going in the right direction? What is the cause for it, or what is the root cause for it, is something which we have to deliberate. But the effect is very much clear. Wherever we go, wherever we see, whatever we do, these effects are very much clear here. Is that a real cause for the unbelievable problems which we all face today? That is the question which today's session we will deal with. Today, the human lifestyle is completely dependent or completely based on one basic principle, and that basic principle is called the insatiable greed, which call it avarice. If somebody has to define what is this greed is, and why we call it an insatiable greed, what has happened is there has been an aspirational value that has been created. wherever I am, even I might be a pauper on the street, or even might be the ruling member of the entire country. And most of them, if not all of them, find it very difficult to even come closer to that aspirational value. The basic thing which I would really comment here is that why can't we aspire to be a human being first? Are we aspiring to be a human being first? Definitely not. Today, the hedonistic mindset which we have accrued upon us has created different types of aspirational values, very different type of aspirational values. And what it has unleashed a different mindset. Today, every man on the street, every man you meet, or every person, whether he is a success or a failure in his life, he has a very different type of a mindset which our traditional people didn't have. This entire program, India is Still India, has been designed in such a way to deliberate upon the thought process that how this human race as a whole was living, say probably 200 years ago or 500 years ago, and how they are living it today. When I say that the aspirational value has been kept on a higher pedestal, maybe artificially, and who has kept it is something which we have to think upon. If you could remember the last week program, what I was talking about, various fields of action of a human society which had continuous problems across. The first problem which we deliberated last time is one is called the urbanization. The urbanization problem. Today, every villager, or it's even not correct to call him a villager, or every human being wants to shift to an urban area, and the youth especially thinks that if you are living in a metropolitan city, then you have reached some success in life. Why should we actually think upon that urbanization is only motive by which we have achieved some success in life? Fast motor cars, fancy bikes, the bullet trains which we are planning to import from various countries. Why can't we build some 100-storied buildings, some fancy gadgets? The list goes on. And many of them might be of very good value to our life. Today, if our predecessors or our previous generation has to come appear here and in front of us, if they see our lifestyle, they might be happy. They might think that, yes, this current generation is actually having some advanced life. But really introspect what is happening to the current generation, they will be aghast. Definitely what has happened is we have unleashed our animal spirits. Everybody wants to have some higher aspirational value. Everybody wants to achieve which may be beyond his reach. And that's why, as a society, we are suffering. The second area of interest which we discussed last time is called the education. And education is also one such very clear field where the aspirational value has been, artificial aspirational value has been kept up in the name of examinations, competitive exams. Education was indeed very helpful to develop a character of a human being. Previously, that if a man is told to be, he is an educated fellow, he is supposed to be very civilized human being. Today, most of the immoral activities, illegal activities are done by the so-called educated people. Has the modern education unleashed a different aspirational value than what it was intended when it was started? And that is why most of our education system is in complete disarray, complete mess. And the other field which can also come to my mind is the medical field, the health sector. And this sector does not need any introduction. But today, what has happened is that in the name of health or in the name of the medical field, what has happened, some different aspirational value has been set up, and people who are engaged that as a profession are really taking us for a ride. And why it happens? Again, the same old thing of unleashing some animal spirits in them. And the other field which can also be discussed here is the agricultural sector. Agricultural sector is considered to be the most pristine of the occupation. And also not to forget that it's the most important of all the occupations which the mankind can do. And the practices which we have brought today to run this agricultural sector has completely depleted our resources or completely wasted them. And the other sector which we discussed the other day is a legal profession. Many unwanted legal hurdles, legal complications, because of the same wrong aspirational value. The wrong aspirational value sets up an animal spirit where the lawyer or the person also has some ulterior motive. So we can go on with the list of various field of action which the human race today encounter. But one basic thing is that we have lost touch, which our predecessors had and which we are not having today. And that is the root cause of many of our problems. What we have lost touch is a natural way of life. A natural way of life has been completely forgotten. We have created many artificial masks which unleash artificial tendencies. You think about it, any sector, any field, or any action which we do has completely become artificial. Nothing is natural, everything has become artificial. I remember the famous words of George Bernard Shaw that the Indian way of life, he used to quote this very often. It was his very famous saying, the Indian way of life provides a vision for a natural way of life. So the Indian way of life, or what we call as the Indian culture or the Indian tradition, had a very, very high vision for a natural way of life. We, the Western people, have created a veil ourselves with unnatural masks. Is that not true? That what we have created in front of us is an unnatural veil, an unnatural mask in front of us, in which we want to show ourselves as completely different than what we are innately actual. That if you go to India, you'll observe some tender expressions which actually comes from their very great lineage or very great tradition. And what these tender expressions actually show, that it shows the Creator's hand in everything. When today, for example, the agricultural field used to see whenever a crop grows, he had the mindset of seeing it as a help or the nature's mercy. So where do we see the Creator's hand in modern agriculture? Or even where is the Creator's hand in modern education? Or where do we see the Creator's hand in modern medical field? Or where do we see the Creator's hand in modern society as a whole? The root cause of our problem is very definitely that we have unleashed some animal spirits. The entire solution mechanism which we have devised here, laws or enforcement, nothing is working. The same example is very apt. If we want to enforce upon some rule or regulation, rules and regulations on an animal, this is not going to work. What is that? That the animal spirits in us have been brought out is something which we have to understand first. The animal spirits in us has been brought up purely, I would say, from an external environment, which is called the marketing game. They artificially created a demand in whatever field of action what they are doing. And because what has happened, we have to pay some price. And what is the price which we have paid for it? It is our inner soul, human soul, which we have lost. The human soul or the soul element or the human element, which I can say is completely missing in every human being or is missing in the complete human civilization. And so think about it, all the field of actions which we discussed last time, if there would have been a human element there, how different the entire life would have been. The sense of contentment which is not there. The set of problems which we face today can be subdivided into two things. One is economical, another is social. Both these problems are arising from a root cause of lack of contentment, that it is insatiable greed or insatiable lust that has created the multiple avenues of people to cheat others, to dupe others, or to take others getting into exploitation. So what is exactly the economical problem? If somebody says it's an economical problem, what does it mean? What does an economical problem is? Every field like medical field or educational field or agricultural field or the urbanization, every field is indirectly or directly connected with some economical issue. So unless we are not able to understand the very clear understanding of what is an economical problem, then how we are going to solve it? Most of them who have been assigned to solve this problem treat them as a money issue or a lack of oversight or a lack of regulatory oversight. And so what do? They do two things. To solve a problem, they have two solutions always with them. One is called they offer money, which we see currently. People are being offered free money. And the second one is called some regulatory solutions or some regulatory oversight or tougher laws. Did money alone created these problems, which all these economical problems today we face? And the second question is, can money and regulation solve all these problems? The very, very clear example which can be discussed is one is educational field, another is a medical field. Both the fields today has unlimited money. Even a villager or an urban person or a person who is located anywhere in this entire world, they are willing to pay any price for education or for the medical facilities. And because they think that this medical field and the educational field is their primary need. And so money is coming in. More and more money coming into the field has created more and more problems. Because of over money which was coming in, the government came up with some better regulations. And in spite of all the better regulations which we had, still these two fields are completely in a mess. So where did the problem actually start? How did this problem started? Well, the modern economics is not a system of nature. Definitely, you will agree with me on that. And the modern system of economics, it's not like a law of gravity. The law of gravity is infallible. But today, the laws which have been created by our so-called oversight committees are completely fallible. These are man-made systems. The man-made systems always have some loopholes or always have some complicated byproducts or side effects, what we can say. So therefore, the root of the faulty economic problem we find is the people. So we the people, we the human beings have created this mess. The consciousness which we have acquired here is to cheat others, is to exploit others, or by a hook or means steal something to enhance our wealth. So what has happened is, we as a human society think that this economical problem or somebody who is really living in poverty can be alleviated by the so-called solution called money or currency, or what we call as wealth, called wealth creation. Today, the term which is being used very, very common here is called wealth creation. How can we create wealth for farmers? How can we create wealth for weavers? Or how can we create wealth for some workers? So what is this wealth? What is this wealth? What is the real wealth? Today, we have a very utopian idea of what this wealth is. Actually, if you go into a traditional mindset again to compare what those people in those times, in traditional times, have a concept called wealth. You know what they had a very nice concept which is called wealth is something which stays with them forever. But because of our misplaced faith on the so-called currency or the money system which we have created, or the paper currency which we have artificially created, it's another artificial mask, isn't it? And because of this artificial money, we have actually kindled our insatiable greed, unleashed the animal spirits. It is coming back to that same point which we started today. The good old-fashioned greed, for example, is being credited as one of the primary cause of any of the economical crisis. Every now and then, as a cycle goes, every 5 years there is an economical boom and an economical crisis. And whenever economical crisis come, people then think, oh, it has been because of the good old-fashioned greed. The basic consciousness which we have developed it due to this artificial means is actually creating a competitive economic activity. Man is a social animal, as they used to say. Rather than being cooperative and employing egalitarian methods for solving any of the economical problem, we have created some private fiefdoms in which we want to solve the problem. If at all we are not able to understand what kind of consciousness we have, then these animal spirits keep coming every now and then. The animal spirits in us keeps exhibited. The animal spirits in us leads to further and further entanglement, further economical mess. The consciousness study or the study of the consciousness of human being is an elite subject. How many universities across this globe have some subject which actually study the consciousness of this human being? Many elite universities across the globe who actually boast themselves of having some higher advanced technological research papers. But what they have they actually undergone any of these field of study of understanding what is the real need that this human being actually want to cheat others? Or what is the real need that he want to fraud others and amass more wealth? Or what is the reason by which he has acquired an external consciousness which is very, very not conducive for an cooperative lifestyle? They have tried, if they say, but definitely for the last century or so, they have not really understood even an iota of this problem. But fortunately, we have some hope. The Vedas, which are the world's oldest scriptures, offer a very, very clear understanding of this matter. But what has happened? The Westerners or the people who are actually in the helm of affairs today have completely overlooked or misunderstood this entire concept of consciousness. First thing, what we have to understand that economics, the modern day or the current economics which we have is a very, very new concept. It's relatively a recent one, I would say, because money is important factor in the modern economics. Prior to that, the economic activity was always measured completely different. Today, the economic activity, what we are doing is completely different from what we did previously. Today, the economic activity is based on only one thing. What is that? That if you spend money, if you have money, if you have amassed money, then your country grows, your house grows, your family grows, your community grows, or whatever will grow, I don't know. But definitely that kind of action has been kept in our mind. Is it not true? Any society or any country in this entire world has the same objective of having something called a amazing of money or currency, which actually they think is will solve all of their problems. But actually, if you see what this term economy comes from, it was a Greek term called oikonomy, oikonomy. And what does that mean? That economia means that it is a household. How they actually are going to satisfy their basic needs like food, clothing, and shelter, which is their basic household items. So this is what an economy for an average person meant. But today, that has been collectively kept as a family, as an extended family, as a city, as a village, as a district, as a state, as a country. But what has happened is, today, in order to solve the same economical or household problem of food, clothing, and shelter, the contentment in life is not coming. The another way by which we can understand this idea of economics is that we have to understand the economics actually happened in those times in form of relationships. In our day-to-day activities, if we have a relationship with somebody, do we engage, say for example, most of the times it doesn't happen, but some of the time today, because of the same animal spirits, people do it. What I meant is that do we engage in currency transactions among our own family members? Or I'll put it something different. Do we engage in some currency transactions between two people or between two persons who actually love each other? Say a husband and wife who love each other, do they engage in some currency transactions on a day-to-day basis? Maybe they might engage in currency transactions once they file for divorce, but not when they were actually doing any day-to-day transactions or when they were actually having some good times. The point which I want to make here is that people who are our close to us or people who are our family or a close knit group, generally we don't engage them currency economy. Say a kingdom of a king was done as an extended family. The guy who was living in this street had an extended relationship with a guy with the other street who was living there by the way of a barter system. He used to give his pot, he used to give him some cloth, or he used to give him some rice. So it was a very, very mutually existing relationship which didn't have any value of currency. Unless we create a sense of belonging to the society, or we make the society become very closer, or we make the society devoid, or we make the society deal with less of cash and currency, or this artificial mask which we have created, the insatiable greed or the animal spirits in us, it will be very, very difficult to subside. Because we are dealing with an economical problem here, it actually extends it to the other level, which is called the societal problem. The societal problem starts just like this, that because we don't see a neighbor as an extended family or a society as an extended family, we always have a sense of avarice among them. So the modern culture Mind you, I'm using the word modern culture, not the Western culture. The modern culture have failed to teach us this moral mores or the social mores for sharing with others in the same way how we are sharing with our families. If at all, the modern culture was actually prudent enough in teaching us how to deal with the society as large, in the same way how we used to deal with our families, maybe the entire situation would have been much different. Today, the entire Western world, which actually is reached the pinnacle of human civilization based on a single concept called an individualization. And the concept of unlimited private ownership actually makes him feel that this is my property, this is my wife's property, this is my son's property, this is son's room, this is the wife's room, this is my mother's room, this is the father's property. In those times, say maybe 200 years back, it was never to be. There was an extended family. All this is what I meant is an Indian culture again. That is why we have termed as India is still India. In India, at least maybe now because we are aping the West, we have really gone into this mode of nuclear family concept. What we have actually created, this Western or the modern concept, is that we have created a concept of mine, a legal concept of mine. So people became separated and isolated from each other. So once we have become isolated from each other, a sense of alienation or a sense of impersonalism has come into our society. So what has happened? Individuals are pitted against each other. Individuals actually think that how to completely bring him down or how to bring our neighbor down or something like that. So a private fight starts, it becomes a community fight, later it becomes a village fight, then later it becomes a country fight, which we are actually facing every now and then maybe another world war. So this fact alone is actually very much responsible for what has happened as the various neuroses or a strife in the current world. This is the connection between the economic and social problems which we face. So as I meant here, what started off as an economical want has rather than a need has transformed it into a societal issue. Started this as an economical thing, but now we have created a complete mesh of some societal problem which we don't know how to unwind it. Every man wants to achieve something individualistic, and that man knows how to achieve it irrespective of whether it is a common good or it is actually creating some mess among the society. And what is this called? Is called the progressive culture. Isn't it? What is this progressive culture? Inferior culture was there in the past, maybe 200, 300 years ago. They call it Stone Age or the Iron Age or something which they term up. But today, what is being done is that today we have reached a stage where we are completely progressed. And what is this progress all about? Is the question which I have. Have we reached a stage where progress has been defined by various other means which are completely artificial? Earlier, man never lived like this, in a state of complete disarray that he doesn't know what to do. But today, the modern economical model is completely creating a different picture, and it is giving a complete consciousness that we have actually progressive. We are progressive culture. That the traditional economical model assumes that people have some desires, and people's desires have to be taken care of by some limited amount of goods. Today, what we have done is that people's desires cannot be satiated. So we have to produce more and more. How we are going to produce more and more? Just by hook and crook. Is it not true? These assumptions are applied in any of the economical theory which we have devised from the last 100 years or so. Francis Edgeworth in 1881, when he wrote this famous book, he quoted this famous term that every man is a pleasure machine. So what happens is, if you are a pleasure machine, then what happens is we have to take care of our human body as a pleasure machine. And once this pleasure machine has to be dealt very differently, he actually coined all the economical terms in the mode of being a pleasure machine. So it all started in the late 1800s when the entire concept of bringing an individualistic man or individualistic consciousness into a picture. My simple question to all of you is that if we say that man is a pleasure machine, so is that much simple? Or can we call human beings as just producing and consuming machines? The need to sound logical And the urgency to show some models actually have exacerbated the problem. Even the greatest economical captain of those years of the 20th century, John Maynard Keynes, used to tell that the entire human race, the entire economical model would be able to serve one day for the entire human race rather than to the needs of an individual human being. That's a very, very apt statement from Keynes, that unless we dovetail or we change or we overturn this entire economical problem or the entire economics, that it serves the humankind as a whole rather than completely focusing on one individualistic human being, we are not going to come out of this complete mess which we have created with so many complex knots which we have done. Today, there is a big debate going on the other side of the table, that one says that communism is very important or capitalism is very important. Communism brings in mediocrity. Capitalism brings in exploitation. Either communism or capitalism comes from an atheistic mindset. The atheistic mindset is an exploitative mindset. The modern economical thinking is divergent from a traditional one, which had a thinking that nature has provided this with something. This is for the entire human race, and what I need is what this much, and I will take this much for my purpose. When the entire thing of bringing nature or bringing God's hand or seeing the God's hand in front of everything, we are not able to see the common good, then the entire thing descends to an individualistic, animalistic mindset. Today, the time is still not conducive for a complete overhaul. And you would agree with me that we have reached so far in this individualistic, or what I call as an hedonistic mindset, that it will be very, very difficult to stop this and completely to overturn this juggernaut. So the foul play of doing anything is actually coming from an individualistic mindset. Somehow or other, people have started employing all foul means and seems to be sitting on a very high pedestal. So a common man or a person at the bottom of the pyramid thinks that foul play is the only way to go. And what he does, he also employs in foul means. People are not understanding that a collective lifestyle or a lifestyle with common good is more conducive for a very, very peace and harmonious society, is something which I want to bring today onto the table. And why this is very much important or connected to our topic of India is still India, is that our Indian tradition was such that it was actually a very, very homogeneous society, which I want to actually make this as a heading of this today's talk, is that it's called the spiritual economics. The problem, all these mess which we have created today should be looked from a view or a lens of a spiritual economics. The term spiritual economics or the economics based on our Indian Vedic texts like Bhagavad Gita or our most suitable traditional practices should be brought to the core of our basic economical policy implementation. The principle of spiritual economy is very different from the principle which the normal modern economy functions on. Mark Twain, the famous philosopher, we can say, or writer, he used to say that this land, which is that land, the Indian land, this land is a land of religions. It is the cradle of the human race. It is the birth of human speech. And it's the grandmother of legend and the great grandmother of tradition. So here he gives you two different points. One is legend and another is a great tradition. And what it's the land of the cradle of the human race. The entire human race today actually is turning towards India and looking for some solution. Mark Twain goes further to explain that all men desire to have a glimpse of what is happening here or what is their tradition is. And this glimpse will be much different or will be much more bigger than the entire world's glimpse, even if we project it in a small second. And that glimpse of our traditional India is what we have to showcase upon the entire world. Unfortunately, we either voluntarily or involuntarily want to keep this tradition or this glimpse in dark. So the formula for living in a peaceful and a harmonious society is only possible if we understand that the ultimate goal of the human life or the ultimate goal of human birth is to understand that how as a society we can be more conducive, or how to understand that the God given things, how do they work and how are they for the betterment of the human race as a whole. Unless this mindset is being developed, it becomes very difficult for us to come out of this complete mess of individualistic, hedonistic, and a very, very cultural and a societal mess which we have created upon ourselves. The final point is, if we wish to establish peace and harmony and thereby prosperity in the society, we must understand that it is important to understand the laws of nature. What the world needs today is return to the sanity and moral spiritual moorings. At the present moment, nothing seems to be heading towards this direction. Nothing is so concerned for the mankind that these instruments or these traditional instruments are completely being overlooked. So what we need is actually the instruments for training the mind of the people, educating the human nature, or bringing up the human nature in humans. It is imperative, and it's very, very clear, and it's very high time that the leaders of our society stop encouraging people by stop encouraging people towards this exploitative mindset, which is actually epitomized by the economical growth or the industrial growth, and instead work for creating a sane humanity or a sane mindset in human beings, which is much more conducive if we live in the lap of the mother nature and completely depend upon God. Friends, this is the term which actually is very important today, is called the spiritual economics. India has always been and will always be guided by this spiritual mooring, and India will be guided by God, can lead the world back to sanity. And believe me, the whole world is looking up to us, and we actually have a very, very wonderful panacea to the entire problem, which is the traditional methodology of having a common good. But unfortunately, we ourselves are embroiled in the modern complications. So the only thing which we can do today is to propagate the spiritual economics much more. And what is the spiritual economics is what we will be dealing with the future sessions of this web-based discussion forum, which we have titled India is Still India. This will be the point of discussion also when we meet many, many subject matter experts, which we will want to bring here from the various fields. And we discuss with them that how the modern mindset is working and how the spiritual economics will work. And is there any way by which some kind of a bridge can be created by which some of these problems, because it's not going to be an easy joke, that it's not like switching off a fan or switching off a light, that today we are actually in a hedonistic, individualistic mindset, and come tomorrow morning, everything will be spiritual, or everything will be traditional, or all our societal problems will be solved. It's not going to be like that. What is going to happen is some sort of a bridge which we have to create and slowly create some of the value systems in our normal way of functioning. That value system was very much present in our traditional lifestyle. So unless we are going to bring or try to bring how this traditional lifestyle into our normal, in our daily life, this mad functioning of this complex society will not be able to find solutions for itself. And why not? It will also exacerbate the entire problem, by which the entire society becomes more messier, and peace and harmony becomes a distant dream, if not an impossible dream. That's it for today. Hope to see you again in another session of India is Still, and India is India, and India is still very much India. Hare Krishna.